This video is all about lab safety in Mrs. Cavelli's Principles of Chemistry class. Lab investigations are the most fun part of chemistry class, but sometimes they involve potentially harmful materials, so we want to make sure that we're always being as safe as possible. Safety is our most important responsibility in the lab. It's more important than getting the answers to the lab questions right. It's more important than everything in your experiment turning out exactly as you think it should. We always want to put safety first. The three most dangerous items in the lab setting are chemicals, glassware such as beakers, flasks, stirring rods, and heat sources like Bunsen burners and hot plates. The most important and first safety rule is always tell the teacher about any spill, accident, or fire. Anytime anything happens, the first thing you want to do is tell the teacher. Chemical dangers are the first ones we'll talk about. There's lots of ways for chemicals to get in or on your body, and they're dangerous for a variety of reasons, and we're going to talk about those. First is your mouth. Many chemicals used in the lab are toxic, which means that if you ingest them, they can make you sick or they can kill you. And there's always a chance that countertops or equipment have not been adequately washed. So maybe somebody spilled something on the counter and they didn't notice it and they forgot to wipe it up, or possibly something was left in a beaker that wasn't washed properly and it still contains traces of those chemicals. In order to prevent this situation, we never ever eat or drink in the lab. That includes chewing gum. You never want to put anything in your mouth while you're doing the lab. And on lab days, we don't bring that stuff to class at all. Chemicals can also get in your body through your nose. It's a problem because inhaling fumes can destroy the lining of your nose and introduce chemicals into your bloodstream. In order to prevent this, anytime we need to smell a chemical, which isn't very often, we hold the beaker up and use our hand to waft the fumes toward you. So you hold the beaker up and wave the fumes toward your face with your hands. Never directly put your face over anything that contains chemicals and inhale deeply. Chemicals can also get in your body through your eyes, and they can cause permanent damage to your eyes, and shattered glassware can harm them also. We're going to watch a video in class that shows just what kind of damage those chemicals can do to your eyes. In order to prevent eye damage, we always wear safety goggles in the lab, and we wear them properly. Don't let them hang on your neck or rest on top of your head at any time when you're in the lab. They're there to protect our eyes, not our neck or the top of our head. So we always wear them over our eyes, even if we're just working with water, because sometimes that glass can shatter and that will hurt your eyes also. If you do get chemicals in your eyes, you remove your contact lenses if you're wearing them, and then you wash your eyes by holding open your eyelids and rinsing with a steady stream of water at the eye wash station for 15 minutes. Now, it's not seconds, it's minutes. It takes a really long time to ensure that you've gotten all those chemicals out of your eyes. Then, if necessary, we contact a physician. Chemicals can also get into your skin. Usually, the chemicals that we use aren't enough to penetrate your skin, but they can cause damage to the skin, and if you have open wounds like cuts or scrapes, they can get into your skin and into your bloodstream. To prevent this, you can wear gloves when handling chemicals and dress appropriately, which is what we're going to talk about in a later slide. If you do get chemicals on your skin, you wash immediately for 15 minutes using the safety shower. You remove all traces of the chemical from your skin, and if you have any chemical burns, those need to be examined by a doctor. Clothing is also a chemical issue because it can trap spilled chemicals next to your skin. To prevent this, we always wear appropriate clothing and a lab coat or apron if necessary. If you get chemicals on your clothing, you remove the affected clothing as soon as possible and wash the skin underneath with water for 15 minutes. And please remember, the first rule of lab safety is to always tell the teacher about any spill, accident, or fire. Glassware is also a safety issue in the lab. Broken glassware can cut your skin or eyes and obviously cause bleeding and infection, but it can also provide a way for chemicals to enter into your body. So then you have a double issue. You have glassware cutting you and then chemicals entering your body and possibly making you sick. So if you break or chip glassware, of course, first tell the teacher. That's what we always do when we have an accident in the lab. Then you clean up the broken glassware with a broom and dustpan. Never use your hands because that can cause you to get cut and then possibly get chemicals into your skin, especially if there are chemicals already on the broken glass. If you do receive a cut, we treat any cuts according to the instructions in the first aid kit. And fire is another issue in the lab. Many chemicals that we use are flammable in liquid or gaseous state. So sometimes they're not flammable when they're liquid, but once we boil them and turn them into a gas, they become flammable that way. We need to always be aware of what we're working with. Hair or clothing can easily catch fire, so we always want to tie back long hair if you have it, and don't wear loose clothing or jewelry when we do labs. Burns can occur when handling hot materials. So if you need to pick up a warm beaker or you think it's warm, you always want to hold your hand near a container to test how hot it is before you pick it up, or just to be safe, use tongs. When you're heating a test tube, you never point the top of the test tube directly at yourself or someone else. The contents may boil over and splash you or your neighbor, and that can lead to chemical burns and chemicals getting inside your body. Never leave your heat source unattended either. You always want to turn it off as soon as you're finished with it or any time you're not going to use it for a period of time. To prevent fires, we want to dress appropriately, which is what we're going to talk about after this. If you get a burn on your skin, you run cool water over the burned area and then follow instructions in the first aid kit. Fires in beakers should be covered with a fireproof lid and smothered. In the lab, we always smother fires. If there's a large fire in the lab, we use the fire extinguisher. For smaller fires, we use the fire blanket to smother them. If they're on someone's clothes or there's a contained fire, we smother it with the fire blanket. But never ever use water to put out the fire. And of course, first, always tell the teacher about any spill, accident, or fire. Alright, so here's where we get to appropriate clothing. When we do labs, you must always wear long pants, not shorts, and closed-toed shoes, not sandals, that cover the whole foot. Things like ballet flats are not good because they leave the top of your foot exposed. Don't wear loose shirts or jewelry because those can catch fire, get caught on things. If you have long hair, you have to tie it back so it doesn't catch fire or get into chemicals. Clothing should be free of holes. The clothing should cover your skin so that we can reduce the risk of chemical burns on the skin. And you should always wear goggles over your eyes. When we start a lab, the first thing we always do is put on safety goggles. That has to be done before anything else. Then, we need to make sure we know what we're going to do. So all the procedures need to be read, and you need to know what chemicals are involved in the experiment. When you do the lab, you do it without playing around. Horseplay increases the risk of accidents, such as broken glassware, chemical spills, fires. So we don't play around, we do the lab that we need to do safely. Never do any unauthorized experiments. You don't always know what kind of reaction something's going to have, so if it's not in the instructions or the teacher doesn't tell you to do it, don't do it. When you're finished with the lab, you always want to wash the materials that you use and every surface that you've contacted. So all of your dishes, glassware, spatula, stuff like that, and also wipe down the tabletops with sanitizer spray and paper towels. And last, you always wash your hands with soap and water. Even if you don't think you've gotten chemicals on your skin, there's still that possibility, so you never leave the lab without washing your hands. We'll be discussing lab safety for a few days, and in order to participate in labs, you must pass the lab safety test with no less than a 90%. If you don't pass, you have to review the materials and retake the test at a later date. which you won't be given time in class for. So you need to make sure that you study all the materials that I give you and be prepared to take this test and pass it with a 90%. If you don't, you can't participate in labs, which are a significant part of your grade.